Hello everyone and welcome to Cover 2 TV. I'm Steve Hall, this is Chris Pajak, this is Tom Jennings, and we are here for the next 8 weeks. We're going to be doing our divisional previews. Whoop, whoop. Before you know it, the season will be here. Training camp starts in a couple of days-ish. You're going to whoop training camps? Whoop whoop. Yeah, cool. So yeah, each week we're going to go through a different division, and what we're going to do, the format we're going to use. We're not going to whoop everything. You can feel free. We're going to...
Feels a bit WWE.
It was very Stone Cold Steve Austin-ish, wasn't it? We're going to ask one big question about each team's season or progress or what they've done so far. We're basically looking ahead. So by the time we finish this, we'll have answered 32 massive questions, Chris. Massive questions.
Massive questions.
Not little questions, not even mediocre questions. Fucking girthy questions is what we've on the ball.
Kit Kat chunky.
That's exactly what we're doing. We are not just a single finger. We are.
What does your missus like? 2 fingers, 4 fingers, or chunky?
She hasn't really got a choice. She gets it's not chunky. Let's move on swiftly. The first team we're going to start, the first division, I should say, we're going to start with the AFC North, and we're going to go in alphabetical order. So it's the Bengals. We're going to kick off something with the Bengals. It's the first time in history that the Bengals have led anything ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go. Let's go. So the first question on the Bengals, is there any part of the Cincinnati Bengals roster, Geno, that's good enough for you to think that they can do better than 8-8 this season?
In a word, no.
There's nothing.
No.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, just I don't.
What do you make of their roster?
I've seen that they're trying to improve the offensive line. They're trying to create a running game for Joe Mixon. I can see what they're trying to do, but at the end of the day, why Bengals have Marvin Lewis? I don't believe in anything they do, and the roster has not made enough strides for me to think, oh, they're going to be something. They're going to be the same as they always are. They're either going to go 7-9, 8-8, or maybe 9-7. And
so they can do it.
Well, it's doing 9-7 to 8-8. Who gives a flying fuck? I mean, it's about trying to win a Super Bowl in the NFL. That's
I think the Browns would give a fuck.
Did they do
anything for an 9-7 season?
They'd be happy with 7-9, but I mean, the AFC was pretty rubbish last year because the Bills snuck into the playoffs. Funny enough, because the Bengals won a game, but it isn't a low, in terms of a conference. 8-8 can even get you playoffs. You could think it might.
Yeah, but it's not going to get them any further. I mean,
no,
they've not got to a playoff.
They haven't won a playoff game.
They haven't won a playoff game, with them in charge and with Dalton at quarterback, and they've had the best run of this side. They've underwhelmed. They've had good pieces in place before. I think Geno's right. You can see that they've brought that rookie in, is it Billy Price or something like that, the rookie centre, to improve that line. And you can see that with Mixon and Giovanni Bernard, that they've got a running game, and Brandon LaFell and AJ Green, that they've got good pieces. They've had good pieces before, but they've never done anything with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's right, as long as the coach is still there, as long as Dalton's still quarterback, and they've not got perfect for the first 4 games, they should be used to dealing with that, but they're not going to be. Yeah. I mean, it's just going to be the same old for them.
Middle of the road. I think the running game could be good enough to take them to a 9-7, 10-6. I think if the offensive line was, I keep saying this every time we discuss the Bengals, it was awful last season. If it can be the 16th best offensive line in the league, I think Joe Mixon's that good that he could do something behind it. And I think you can get to 8 wins on the back of a running game, depending on your defence. And their defence is fine. It's not outstanding, but it's pretty good. They've got AJ Green, who's we agree is top class. But yeah, I think like for some teams you can set a limit at 14 wins, 15. Even we've gone seasons thinking the Patriots might never lose. I think the Bengals, if you had to pick a ceiling, it'd be like 10-6 at the absolute top. And it's very rare that a team hits that ceiling. Just the randomness of the NFL, a bounce of a ball, a fumble, a bad call, or whatever tends to bring you slightly below that ceiling. No one ever really hits it. I think they could.
And to be fair, if you did all the top ceilings, there'd be more than games.
Exactly.
So there's got to be somewhere.
Absolutely, it's basic maths. But I'm just thinking, I think the Bengals might do okay. But I agree. The only great part of their roster, other than AJ Green, I think the running game could be good-ish. But the issue the Bengals have got at the moment is they're just a bit dull. And I don't mean that
at the moment.
Just in general. I think a couple of years ago, I think they might have been the best team. I think they might have had the best roster in the NFL. And I think they might have really challenged for the Super Bowl up until Andy Dalton broke his hand or his finger or something. Yeah. I think they were the best team that year, I thought, up until that point. And then from there, you know, AJ McCarron comes in and he's a bit rubbish. And
from there,
they
got steadily worse.
Yeah, but basically it was almost like that was the time, and they missed it. Like, and
we talk about windows all the time, and theirs is gone.
Yeah, so they're trying to rebuild, and I think they're trying to rebuild it through the running game. So they went Price and they went Mixon last year, which was a pretty, you know, controversial call, as we all know. They got John Ross in, so they're trying to build offense, which is a bit unlike them because they're usually a defensive team, but they've gone big on offense. So maybe they can do something in a pretty, who knows what this division is going to be. We're going to talk about all these teams now, and there's you know, the Steelers are obviously the standout team, but the others, there's a lot of questions. But yeah, let us know in the comments below which part of the Bengals roster, if any, do you think is good enough to see them go over 8-8? It's hot in here, isn't it?
It's hot in here, it's cold outside, it's weird.
Yeah, that's just this studio was the hottest studio in the world. I'll start with you this time, Chris. What do the Cleveland Browns, who for our second team we're going to talk about, what do they need to achieve for Hugh Jackson to keep his job? Bear in mind, he's 1-31 over the last 2 years. There was talking he might have got sacked. They've revamped their front office, which is usually a bad sign for a coach. What do you need, not even in terms of record, but what do you think they need to do? I
think he needs to get Baker Mayfield onto the field. First
early doors.
Early doors, I think he has to. I think you're probably looking at it and you're looking at, you know, Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, these type of players. He needs to get them working first thing, and he needs to prove that, you know, when you give him the pieces, he can get them absolutely on point. And I had a look at it, right, and get on this. Their schedule is so much harder than you'd expect. So their first 6 games, Steelers, Saints, Jets, Raiders, Ravens, Chargers. I think he needs to go 3-3 in that, and I don't think they can do that for him to keep his job. I think Steelers, I mean, anyone can win against the Steelers some days.
The Browns, yeah, don't really.
You know what I mean? The Saints, you never back in against Drew Brees there. The Jets, you'd bank on them to win that one. Raiders, I think, will come back a little bit better this season. Ravens have had a hoodoo over them for years. I think they've won the last 4 straight over them. And then the Chargers and Phil Rivers, again, they're a side that can get beaten on random Sundays. But I'm looking at you already, maybe 1-5 after 6 weeks.
And do you see that, you know,
that's cataclysmic for him, and that means he can't win his job. That's why I think he needs 3-3.
If they go 1-5, can you see a point where they're just knocking on their lap between the season? We've seen some teams who've just given up. They brought a guy back, Ben McAdoo, and he's gone by the end. He didn't even make the end of the season. Can you see them doing that? Bear in mind, again, it's a new GM. He didn't hire Hugh Jackson. Could you see that something like that, Chris?
I mean, they should do. I mean, he shouldn't still be there. They are not 1-31 bad. They are really bad, but to only win 1 game last season was pathetic. That was awful. How he's kept his job, again, I don't know. Now, I can see what Chris is saying there. If he's supposed to be an offensive-minded coach, that was the whole point why they brought him in. So if we somehow could manage to get Baker Mayfield going and then get the wide receivers that they spent big money on going, and the offense looks like it's at least worthwhile, then maybe he keeps the job, but I just don't see it because I think the defense is horrible and I think the defensive coordinator is terrible. Like, I mean, he does some mad formations that everyone's looking at going, what are you doing, Greg? I can't think what his last name is.
Williams, is it?
Is it Williams?
Yeah, but it's like, my issue is, I think what he's going to do, I think they're going to start with Tyrod Taylor. So even if he does go 1-4, 1-5, he can then say, I'm bringing Baker Mayfield in now.
And it was his decision to get them both.
And then I think he's going to go Tyrod.
Which means he just made the wrong decision to begin with. Which means he's a fucking terrible football coach. Second chances, I got it right. Well, no, you've had a few of them.
You've went through about 15.
I don't know. I'm not sure who.
They need to write it off like 5 games into the season because they've tried writing it off at the end of the year and starting again every year and it hasn't worked. They need to build up. I think they need 3 years of looking to. They might need to look at 2020. Also, they're that bad.
It's also very Brownsian to hit the reset button every 2 years. So that's 2 years, so it's time now to hit the reset button.
Because with the new GM, I think they will go. I think they've gone Tyrod early because they want to give Mayfield time to sit on the bench. He's an older guy. He can't sit too long. Tyrod doesn't turn the ball over. He might not win much, but he doesn't turn it over.
Doesn't throw it either.
Yeah, but that's an issue. I do think he will last the season, and what he needs is whenever Mayfield comes into the lineup, Mayfield needs to look good. And it doesn't matter if they won 6 games or 2 games by that point. It's from when Mayfield comes into the end of the season, he needs to look like something worth keeping. Because, you know, the Niners were absolutely terrible. Garoppolo comes in and he finishes well. Ultimately means nothing because they win 5 meaningless-ish games. But you can build on something, and I think the Browns need to go into the year after knowing that Mayfield is the man. The worst thing that could happen is Mayfield is bad or doesn't look right in the scheme, because then John Dorsey, who made that, he had the pick of 5 potential first-round quarterbacks, and he chose Baker Mayfield. So his job
He's
is
going to give
his
him the
job
best
is his, exactly his job is
environment to succeed.
his job is tied to Baker Mayfield. When you're the GM and you pick a number 1 pick, if that quarterback fails, you tend to
but this is the difficulty, because I agree with everything that you're saying, but Hugh Jackson is the coach.
Yes, I'm saying so.
If Hugh Jackson is going to do what's right for him.
Yeah.
And the new GM is going to want something slightly different. And that in and of itself is going to cause frictions.
The other problem that you got is Hugh Jackson basically has not got to really work with a veteran quarterback. He's basically been working with guys to keep drafting like the 3rd and 4th round. So he's wanted for ages a quarterback who's a veteran and couldn't do what at least the basis of his offense. So he's going to want to play Tyrod Taylor. From week 1, he's going to have John Dorsey in his ear going, when we're playing Baker Mayfield, when we're playing Baker Mayfield, when we're playing Baker Mayfield. And that's what the fan base is like, especially when they get more and more of Tyrod Taylor not throwing the ball and just taking a sack instead. So
it's a difficult situation.
So it's already, he's just like a sitting duck. I think he's already down to be fired at the end of the season and they'll bring in the coach they want.
Yeah, fair enough. That's what
It's an interesting discussion then, actually.
Absolutely. Let us know in the comments again what you think the Browns must do. Record-wise is kind of relevant, but in terms of what you need to see from that team, a very young team.
Also, I think the other thing with the Browns is what were the worst offense 2 years ago, the second worst offense last season. The defense wasn't so bad in yards allowed, but points-wise, they were pretty pathetic, weren't they, as well? So there needs to be an improvement on that side of the ball.
They're basically terrible in the red zone scoring, awful in the red zone defending, the bit where it matters most. Yeah,
they haven't been a good team at all, which is unfortunate, really.
For them.
It definitely is. Next one then is the Baltimore Ravens. Chris, this one I'll come to you first. When, if at all, do you think we'll see Lamar Jackson as the Baltimore starter?
I think it's going to be quite early on, you know. Okay. I think the Ravens have been a winning franchise now for quite some time, but the last 3 years they've not been good enough. You know, Flacco, since he signed the extension to his contract, I think it was, has just absolutely bombed. And at some point they're going to need to just cut the losses on that. And I know it's a big cap hit, but I think Flacco's kind of done. And there's been talk about his mechanics not being right for a couple of years now. He doesn't look like a guy who even is very accurate throwing the ball deep anymore, which is something that he was known for earlier on in his career and stuff. I think when you look at the coaching staff that the Ravens have got, you know, Greg Roman, was at the San Francisco 49ers, I think he's the assistant head coach. He was there when they transitioned Kaepernick from that Nevada offense, and apparently he was instrumental in transitioning Kaepernick into San Francisco 49ers offense. And I think now you've obviously got him in the coaching staff who will be looking at ways to shape that offense for the incoming quarterback. And I just feel like pretty bad start for the Ravens, and they cut the losses and they just go with them, mate.
The difference, I suppose, you know, is that they've got a pretty good defence, and if that defence keeps them in games and they're winning games, they might be reluctant to change that. I suppose, listen, Flacco could have another stormer. It looks unlikely at this stage, you know, because he hasn't looked like anything near a good quarterback for a couple of years now. But if they're not going to change, I don't think they're going to do a change while they're still in playoff hunt. Would you disagree with that?
When was the last time they made the playoffs? Was it 3 years ago?
3 years ago was when
it's a long time
we did the double pass and beat them. It was great. Amendola runs that. Yeah, it was amazing. I think when I'm looking at, I disagree with you. I think they are going to make the change mid-season. Okay. I think the problem, it's going to depend on what Flacco's back is like. That's why Flacco's fell off a cliff. He's lost all mobility and lost his ability to throw the deep ball, and there's been no running game to support the Ravens. However, the Ravens' defense and special teams is more than playoff good enough. It's the offense letting them down and that lack of run game, because they keep trying to get like 31-year-old veteran running back to be their running back, and it's not really worked out very well. So I think we aren't about week 10, week 11. I think that's when we're going to see the change. I think they're going to go, let's add a run game and let's just go for it, a la Jim Harbaugh with Colin Kaepernick. It was the way to, I think, you know, I've always rated John much higher than I've rated Jim. But I think he's going to know, by speaking to his own brother, how that worked and how they did it and how to protect them, and just go for it with him. You don't actually have to make him a pocket passer, just let him be him and see how that works out. So I'm looking about week 10 for the change to happen, unless Joe Flacco's back is actually fully healthy, which there's no guarantee, and he's throwing bombs everywhere, which I don't think any of us really believe that to be the case.
I think he also helps the run game as well, doesn't he? You know, it's a complete change of quarterback, and you know, it's not a pocket passer that will be coming in. And I think the other thing that you can probably look at is John Harbaugh's comments over the last month or so, where he's saying we'll line them both up. I mean, that's a dead giveaway to me that he's getting into this offense at some point, and I think it's probably going to be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think they all stick with Flacco as long as they can, up until when they're not in playoff contention anymore. I think the Ravens are going to be quite good. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's like really late in the season where maybe they're 7-7, 8, and then they maybe lose a couple and they're out of it, and then they go. What I would say is that in the AFC, again, you're right in the mix at 7-7 more than likely, or any around there. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if you see him in spots, like you said, where they might have design packages for him, which I'm never really a big fan of. But we'll see how
got that Marty, is it Morning wig or something, and he loves all of that, and it's funny because haven't they got RG3 as well?
Yeah.
So the two quarterbacks that aren't the main guy are the guys that the coaches prefer to system.
Yeah.
You know, the systems, they actually prefer the one without the pocket passer because they like the matchup thing.
I think,
and yet they're still with Flacco. It feels
Flacco
like they're already moving away from him.
The Flacco thing's money related.
Exactly.
Basically, the Flacco's contract, you can dump it after this year. Yeah. It's after this year you can dump it, so that's what I think they will. I mean, it wouldn't be crazy to think that they tried to trade Flacco away. If they think Lamar Jackson's everything, wouldn't be crazy if someone gets an injury trying to trade Joe Flacco away. I don't think that will happen, but it's a possibility. I think with the sign of RG3 shows, they've got him in to show Lamar Jackson how to be an NFL QB. And maybe they went, show him everything, but except don't show him how to slide. We need him to learn how to slide properly and protect himself.
If anyone watching hasn't seen Lamar Jackson, he's a super athlete. Like, it's ridiculous. Just Google him or YouTube him later on. He's absolutely unbelievable. So I think they're going to go with Flacco until they're out of playoff contention, and then they'll bin him. And that's when he'll go to Jackson. When will that be? I think that might be quite late. I wouldn't even be shocked if we don't see Jackson. We're almost at a, what Kansas City did with Alex Smith, where they just sat the rookie for a year, and then at the end of that season, and Smith had a good season, they still moved on because you've got a first round pick waiting to play. You've got to pick him at some stage. You're not going to sit for 5 years, no matter what happens. So that's where I'm at with them. But I think the Ravens might be pretty good this year. And finally then, I imagine what we'd all agree to be the cream of this division, the cream of the crop of this division even. Geno, the Steelers' offense is loaded. We all know that. We've all seen it. Le'Veon Bell's going to play, albeit on the tag. Is their defense good enough for them to win the Super Bowl? Because it's been their defense that's let them down. Pretty much they got toasted by Jacksonville. The offense wasn't really to blame for that. It's the defense that's let them down in years past. Is their defense good enough for a Super Bowl run?
No, because every time they play the Patriots, they get housed by Tom Brady. Tom Brady owns the Steelers' defense. He has done since he basically came into the league. And then the other team that they really struggle with is Jacksonville Jaguars. So the two teams you're looking at winning the AFC routinely beat the Steelers. So until the Steelers show me they can beat one of these teams in a big game, then I don't trust their defense. It seems to be very easy to work out. I don't know who they've got to replace Shazier. They don't really have anyone who's covering east and west and covers well on the linebackers. So I don't see it.
What do you think?
I think they do. I think, they're always going to every team would struggle against that New England Patriots, but I do think that there are teams that can go and win the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And
would that be the offense carrying them?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with what Geno's saying, by the way. I think it's clearly obvious that the Patriots have owned the Steelers for a long time. But, they brought in, was it 3 safeties in the draft? Yep. Something like that. Because there wasn't a 2-down linebacker that they fancied was good enough for Shazier, and I think they're going to be a little bit more creative. They've now got a roster of probably 4 or 5 safeties there. We're going to see a lot of nickel packages, and I think they're just going to be even more creative with the D. Yeah, I think the offense is good. He's one of them, definitely. I forget.
Marcus Allen was one of them.
Marcus Allen, yeah.
And then a few later round picks.
Yeah, so I think, as I say, I think you're going to see a lot more nickel packages. I think they're going to get more creative. And I think the defence can be better than it was last season.
I'm just looking at the names here. Cameron Hayward, I think, is a good player. Bud Dupree, if Stephon Tuitt, I think, is a good player. TJ Watt looks like he could be a star player. Morgan Bennett was decent enough for the Packers, but he's never been amazing. But my issue, I think Artie Burns, Mike Hilton, Joe Hayden, that's the concern for me, is the back end. I'm not sure about them corners. What they need, I think, if TJ Watt can keep developing as he's developed, and he can just be a player who gets a lot more pressure, then I think they're more than good enough. I think the Steelers can win the Super Bowl, but it's going to be on the offense, which is fair enough. They've invested a lot of money in the offense
for a long time.
Yeah, I just worry about the corners. I do think that if I'm looking, I'm not sure about that Is Joe Hayden any good anymore? I don't know. We're going to soon find out.
I think he's alright, but he's come back to the pack. He's stopped being a superstar corner. I mean, I'm not saying that Steelers can't win a Super Bowl, because of course they can't. They're going to go into the league as probably joint contenders with the Patriots for who's going to win the AFC. But I just think when the two biggest rivals keep beating you, that's your big worry. That Mike Tomlin seems to basically losing the battle with Bill Belichick until that stops.
And the Jaguars stomped all over them twice last season, and that was, I think it was 40 points in 2 games. So yeah, I agree, is that maybe they have to just get the luck of the draw, makes them avoid. What I think they need home field advantage. They are not great, I don't think, on the road. They're not going to go into Florida and win, and I don't think they're going to go into New England and win. They need to be at home, and that's what killed them last year. They lost that home field advantage.
Who did they lose against?
New England.
It was New England.
Gronked them.
No. Who did they? Was it in the regular season?
Yeah, Gronked them, and that meant that they ended up.
Having to go to Jacksonville, then Jacksonville beat them in that, like, it was like 50-40 something.
But even if they'd have beat Jacksonville, they'd have had to go to New England, and they'd have lost. They just would have lost, because that's what they do. So I think the Steelers need to go, 13 wins maybe, and that's massive, isn't it? Because that's how good you'd expect New England to be. You know all these issues that they're still going to be really good. I worry, teams ran a lot on the Steelers last year. Look at Leonard Fournette, just absolutely killed them at times. They've tried to address it by bringing an athletic safety in, because they've got no linebacker. Shazier is a huge loss, that's massive, and it's so unfortunate, because this should be his prime. They've drafted him for a couple of years, they developed him, and he was already a star, and this would have been his year. Unfortunately, we know he's injured, he's probably not going to play ever again, which is a shame. I think you can run on the Steelers, and the best way to beat a good offense is to just keep them sat over there, and it's just to pound it. And until they can prove they can't, that's going to be their biggest worry, I think.
Absolutely.
But I agree, they're probably going to go in as second or third favourites. You'd probably say second favourites in the AFC, so they can win it. But I think that's going to be the question. I don't think I've got any worries really about the offence.
Only that with Bell's playing style, it takes them a few weeks to get going. So that's the problem, is they might be 2-2 after the first 4 weeks, because it just takes him a little bit while if he's sitting out training camp to get going with his offensive line, and that could be the problem, because that's the 2 losses. The Patriots only really ever lose 4 games, so you're already halfway between not getting home field advantage. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Bell thing, we'll see. I mean, we'll see when he comes back into action. He said he is going to sit out a lot of training camp. Fair enough, he doesn't want to get injured, I understand it, but listen, the Steelers, we're not arguing the Steelers. I think we'd all agree that these are the best team in the division. Yeah. The most talented team probably in the AFC, easily, but the questions are the questions until they answer the questions. They're the questions. Can you pass me that box over to your left-hand side, please? You guys don't know what this is. This is 7 teams, 7 divisions, Chris. And this is where we're going to decide who we're going to talk about next week. Ooh. So I will let you do the honours. Close your eyes, have a little pick around. Go on.
Trust me, I'm looking in your eyes.
That's beautiful. This box had my dinner in it. I can still smell the lasagna in it, but it's fine. So which division are we going to be discussing next week?
AFC South.
We are talking about, that's a very, very good division. So if you are a fan of the Panthers, the Saints, the Panthers, the Saints, the Bucks, unlucky one, and
might be good.
Yeah, mate. And the Falcons, then please make sure you join in. And you know what? Even if you're not a fan, tune in anyway, because it's going to be an amazing show. Chris?
Fire.
A fire show. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Please let us know in the comments section below the answers to the 4 main questions we asked. Until then, I say we'll be back next week with the NFC South.